At this place in history, we're in Brattleboro with Executive Director of the Vermont Historical Society, Steve Perkins. What brings us to Brattleboro today?
So we're standing on the side of the road with this great sign behind us that says Naulakha.
What
does that mean? That was the home of famed British author Rudyard Kipling. And I don't think many people know that he lived here for 4 years and wrote the Jungle Books. So we're going to go up and take a look at his house.
Rudyard Kipling was an English author. When he lived here at Naulakha, he was the most famous author in the world. And he continues to be one of the most published authors in the world. He once said that he never got writer's block, that he just had this deep well of imagination that he could draw off of anytime he wanted. He spent the first 6 years of his life in India. That's where his parents lived, while his father oversaw a museum there. When he was 6, he was sent to England to live with a foster family so that he could begin his formal education. And he stayed there until he was 17, when he got his first job. And that's when he really started blossoming as a writer. He eventually met his wife-to-be in England. Mrs. Kipling's family was from Dummerston. He once said that his 2 most favorite places in the world were Bombay, India, and Brattleboro, Vermont. This is the only house he ever designed and built for himself. He built it to look like a ship. So it's 90 feet long and just 22 feet wide. And he imagined he would ride his ship house over the mountains of Vermont, having many wonderful journeys and writing about them, which is exactly what he did.
So we're talking 1890s right now. He left in 1896 and he didn't come back. Why is that?
Actually, they were headed back at one point. They'd traveled across the ocean to England. They were on their way back. Both he and his daughter contracted pneumonia, and then he recovered in New York. She did not. And without her and a connection she created for him to this house, he couldn't come back again. So that was the end of it.
Yeah, they say he was heartbroken. He called her his little American, Josephine. And when she died, he just couldn't bring himself to come back here again. Well, the house was on the market for quite a few years. Eventually, a local Brattleboro family, who was also a friend of the family, bought the house and really only used it as a summer residence. So when we purchased the house over 25 years ago, it had been abandoned for 50 years. The entire south foundation had collapsed, and there was a family of raccoons living in here. But all of the furniture was still here, all the books were here, the curtains were still on the windows. So it was like a time capsule. First room that you walk into is the loggia. That was Kipling's favorite room of all of the rooms in the house. He called that room the joy of the house. To the left of that is the dining room and the kitchen. To the right of that is Mrs. Kipling's study, and we're here in Mr. Kipling's study. And this was where he could be the captain of his ship. So this is where he did his writing. Above this bedroom is actually the children's room. He didn't really think about the fact that the children were above his study when he designed his house. And apparently the pitter-patter of little feet was somewhat distracting. So he ended up taking all the floorboards out and packing it with seaweed. And when we did the restoration on the house, that seaweed was still there. So we have the children's night nursery and the day nursery, then the Kipling bedroom. At the other end of the house, we have the guest bedroom where Arthur Conan Doyle stayed when he came for a visit. And then at the end of the house is the servants' bedroom. And then you can't miss the top floor. That's where the game room is. There's a full-size pool table up there. And another room with some interesting kind of museum pieces.
The Landmark Trust USA makes all of these historic properties available for rent for short-term vacations. We're trying to preserve things that are culturally significant, historically important. So people come in, they rent this house for a weekend or a week, and it becomes fully equipped, fully furnished. It just needs the guest and whatever they're going to consume.